among my friends to be the guy who is always getting along with everybody. And I hope so, because this is a skill I've trained for years. In elementary school, I needed to be funny and clown around to cover up the fact that I wasn't doing well at school. In fact, I was a very slow learner. 2 weeks after my graduation from high school, they found out I'm severely dyslexic. That explained a lot, but didn't change a thing. I was still terribly slow at reading, kept being distracted by random noises. We did this on purpose. This is part of the talk. This is a test. We all failed. Continue on. I couldn't retain any information. And I was pretty frustrated by it because I love personal development and I wanted to study neuroscience, but I already had trouble reading a newspaper, so I knew I could never do it. At some point, my frustration turned into fascination, and I decided I want to gain more from my brain. So I started to follow speed reading classes, trained my memory, used mind mapping tricks. They were all really helpful, but didn't have a lasting impact. So then I started to dive deep into the scientific papers. And the more I deepened my knowledge about the brain, the clearer it became. There's one magical word if you want to optimize your brain: focus. Think about it. If you want to be more present, or block distractions, or reduce your stress level, it all comes all down to your ability to block distractions and get yourself in the flow. All the other things, reading faster, memorizing stuff, is a result of that ability. Most people, including me, are normally focused on the tools. You want to know a cool new approach to do more things during the day, or want to download the latest productivity app. But it is all irrelevant if we cannot manage our focus. It is just productivity porn. I did not invent that term, by the way. When we don't embrace that focus management is the core of it all, then we're missing the point. And during my quest, I came across a statistic that boggled my mind. Our attention span now is just 8 seconds. 8 seconds, that's it. With 8 seconds, we can never dive deep. We're always staying at the surface. And we're more busy with the more shallow tasks or simple tasks. And as a result of that, we can stay busy all day long. And at the end of the day, we come to the realization, I haven't done that much. Who can relate to this? I'm curious, right? Me too. So the more I spoke about it, the more I noticed that most people struggle with focus one way or the other. At the university where I teach, I found out that many students take pills in order to keep their attention on a subject. This could be because of my classes, but something is seriously wrong here. Most professionals that tell me that they don't read information anymore, they're just scanning information, scrolling through information, for the simple reason they do not have the attention span to actually read the information. So I decided to specialize in how we can improve our focus. If we could take the 8-second concentration span and make it a little bit longer, we would have the ability to dive deep in whatever we're working on, but be more present in what we're doing and more connected to the people we care about. And ultimately, it will lead to a more fulfilling life. So let me share with you 3 different stories how I think focus can help us in our life. The first story is actually an accidental discovery. When I come home from the office or a business trip, my mind tends to be full of new things I want to do and all the things that need to be done and new ideas. And as a result of that, when I'm meeting my girlfriend, I could be that I'm not mentally there, so my mind's wandering off, and that can lead to a feeling of irritation or a feeling of guilt. So my girlfriend and I developed a habit. Whenever we're catching up, we're going for a walk. And the simple activity of walking requires just a little bit brain activity, and therefore there's less brain activity left over to think of other things, and as a result, we're both more engaged during the conversation and having a better connection. And I find this fascinating, so I started to research this. And what I found out is that whenever we're speaking, listening, writing, or reading, we only use 1/5 of our brain capacity. So we have a lot of brain capacity left over to think of other things, and our mind wanders off. And I started to notice this during reading a lot too. While I was reading, I started to think of, oh, I have to call David. Oh, how's Catherine doing? Oh, and at the end of the page, I had no clue what I just read. Who can relate to that one? Right? Very frustrating. I came to the conclusion that our mind thinks faster than we're using it, and I started to experiment with that. Whenever I was reading and I felt that my concentration was dropping, I started to slightly increase my reading speed. And funny enough, that enables me to be more engaged during the reading thing, and therefore had a better retention and took me less time to absorb the information. You can use the same principle when you're listening to a presentation or working in an open office. If you're working in an open office and you're bothered by a coworker who's talking on the phone while you're working on a complex task, this is actually a sign that you're really smart, because you have too much brain capacity left over to hear that conversation, right? This is something to remind. If you want to overcome this, however, what you can do is make the task at hand more challenging. Avoid multitasking, but what you could do is slightly increase your reading speed or typing speed. If you're having a conversation, try walking, and during presentations, draw. Doodling really helps to increase your concentration. Focus management helps you to be more engaged in what you're doing, and therefore it leads to a better result. The second story I'd like to share with you is about a friend of mine. He works for a large consulting firm, and he receives a lot of stimuli during the day. Phone calls, WhatsApp messages, coworkers asking questions. And he told me that he really liked being interrupted because it made him feel important. And it also gave him some sort of a rush feeling, much like taking drugs. He even told me that when he didn't receive any external stimuli, he would look for them. Especially when he was working on a more complex task, he would get the urge to do something in between, and before he knew it, he was scrolling through a random website. We often blame our phone, our email, or coworkers for a lack of concentration. But did you know that in 48% of the time we're distracted, it's because of ourselves? We feel the need to do something in between. We need our shut. Although he liked the interruptions in the beginning, he became to realize that even the small interruptions were costing him a lot of energy. It blocked his ability to dive deep, and in a sense, he lost control. Eventually, it came to a point where he had a burnout. So why is it that small interruptions costing us a lot of energy? Well, we found out that every time we switch between a task, our brain needs to recover from that. In neuroscience, we call this attention residue. When you work on a task, you're using a full brain capacity. But now imagine a coworker asking you a quick question. That's innocent, right? Takes you only a couple seconds to answer. However, at that moment, your brain is split in two. Part of your brain tries to answer the question of your coworker, while the other part of your brain still needs to process the previous task. When you continue on with the original task, same thing happens. A part of your brain needs to let go of the conversation, while the other part needs to continue on with the task. As a result, our brain slows down to about half of its capacity, costing us more time and energy to complete the thing that we're doing. And the weird thing, it doesn't matter how long the interruption takes. Even a quick glance at our phone will result in 64 seconds attention residue. We need to recover from even that. Due to this phenomenon, we lose over 2.1 hours a day, eating into time we would otherwise spend with family, with friends, or playing sports. I just became a father, which is great. My daughter just turned 9 months today, counting the months. Yes, still there. And I really love my job. I really enjoy helping people, but I don't want to be the father who is always working. I don't want to spend unnecessary hours in the office because I couldn't manage my focus. I would rather spend that time playing with my daughter. Focus management has an impact on your life, not just work. The last story I'd like to share with you is about a coaching client of mine. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and she's the kind of person who tends to get the most out of her day. And there's a unique challenge to that. As a typical achiever, she likes to check her phone the moment she has the chance to do that. And when she's on the road, she listens to podcasts because she wants to learn new things all the time. And whenever she needs to wait for something, she reads through her email. Her day is filled up with something that I call focused attention. It's the kind of attention that we're using currently to be engaged in the presentation. It requires some energy and effort. The complete opposite of this is open attention. It's the kind of attention, or the other way of describing it, is daydreaming. This is the part where your brain rests, processes the previous information, and recharges. Whenever we check our phone, it feels pretty relaxing to do that, right? It feels fun to do. However, it is still focused attention. Our brain is still processing new information. There's no difference if you continue on with the presentation or checking your phone. Your brain cannot recharge. The challenge here is that this effort is disguised because every time we check our phone, substances in the brain are released that gives us a happy feeling. And as a result of that, we think that checking our phone is really relaxing, which in reality is absolutely not the case. There are now children of the age of 16 with a burnout. Why? They get 600 WhatsApp messages a day. That's work. The criterion of I like doing this isn't the right one to determine if it's considered to be a break for your brain. My coaching client realized that this was the main reason she was so tired all the time. She never recharges her brain. And she now realized that doing nothing sometimes is the most productive thing that you can do. Understanding how focus works really helps to reduce stress and gain more energy. I told you in the beginning I was a very slow student, and because of that, I developed a negative self-image and became really insecure in certain areas. By managing my focus, it finally became easier. It took me less time to do my work. I'm more focused during a presentation. I'm more engaged in what I'm doing, and my days are more fulfilling. And the cool thing, I now read faster than most people I know. I started to like writing, and I wrote 4 books on the topic focus, something that I would never thought possible before. I still make some odd spelling mistakes, and I have still trouble putting together an IKEA table, so it doesn't solve everything. But I believe that more focus leads to a better life. Thank you.